enslaving Africans, right? So it says influence of the Caribbean, particularly of Haiti, on the United States remains neglected, the neglected area of historical scholarship, despite this new awareness of Blacks' role in American history. They leave that part out. We never hear about that part. So we backtrack. So if your parents, and let's do psychological research here. If your ancestry traces back to the South, where do you come from? Haiti or the Caribbean. Because who was enslaving up in this area? Europeans. All right, I'm gonna tell you how we all connected. Y'all gonna get this day. Y'all gonna get this day. New Orleans and Haiti, right? So New Orleans and Haiti has a real cultural. This is actually a painting. These are actually paintings. And I wish I could blow it up. I don't want to blow that. You see this flag right here in New Orleans? If y'all can see it, what flag is that? That's a Haiti flag. That's black and red. In New Orleans.
What's the name of that painting?
Huh?
What's the name of that painting?
I don't remember the name of the painting right now.
It's black and red, right?
It's black and red.
Not the blue, red,
No,
white,
it's black and red.
blue.
It's black and red. That is our flag right there. That is our flag. And as you can see, in 1809, the Haitian Revolution ended, and then Haitians began to travel, black and white, began to travel to the United States, specifically in that New Orleans area. When I say New Orleans area or Louisiana area, I mean the whole 13 states. The whole 13 states. We begin to populate those areas. You can see it in the way the homes were in New Orleans. When you go to New Orleans, this is a photo from 1875. They call them shotgun houses, right? 1911, Haiti, shotgun house. New Orleans, shotgun house. You see that we just moved with our culture to the United States. Deeply. And when you go through Missouri, you will see these shotgun houses because Africans moving took it with them from one place to another. Voodoo. Voodoo. I mean, nobody practices more voodoo than a Louisiana person. Like, let's keep it real. You know what I'm saying? And then, they bring in your Rubus, the white folk, and the question I gotta ask is, Voodoo is about ancestry worship, right? About paying respect to your ancestors. How do you pay respect to the people who enslaved you? Even though they didn't do it, their ancestors had a part in it. How can you pay respect to your ancestors when you praying with the person next to you? Even though all white people didn't own slaves, I get that part. All white people participated in the system of slavery. Now you say, oh, well, that's a bold statement to make. Well, slavery revolved around what? Insurance, ship making, slave catchers. I mean, what were you doing, white folk? You were doing something. What job you had? So they had all white people benefiting from it. Whether it be snitching on a white person, snitching on a black person or what, they all had a part to do with it. I'll never get that confused. They played both sides of the coin. Jazz music migrated with Haitians to what we call Louisiana now. And they became very, very big. Right there, what's it? Without Haiti, New Orleans wouldn't sound like New Orleans. Everybody knows but us. You don't know this. Dang, your Rubu, and they all up in the photo holding the banner. Because culture lives within the people, not on landmass. Culture lives within you. Anywhere you go, you're going to move with your culture. Haitians came from Haiti, we brought our culture here. Look at Haiti. You start seeing jitneys. What's a jitney? Jitney's a top band. It's a top band. So your culture lives within you. As Marina Ani says, your culture is your immune system. Always remember that. You got a messed up culture, you're going to be a messed up person. All right, so the second line. In New Orleans, when somebody passed away, they go through with the jazz, they playing, the procession is behind them, the body's behind them, they're taking them to their grave. In Haitian voodoo, same thing. Matter of fact, when I went to New Orleans, and I was walking through the cemetery, you can see they bury each other the same way. The caskets off the ground, it's the same thing. Second line, Mardi Gras. Do I really gotta, come on, Mardi Gras? In Creole, we gotta work Mardi Gras. Do we really gotta break it down where it come from? So we see that. We see them celebrating. Now they wear the Native American costumes, not because they're Native American, but because it was outlawed to have African celebrations in Louisiana at that time period. You couldn't celebrate. That's why they have places like Congo Square, where the Africans used to go to meet at. So they disguised what they were doing with Native American uniforms. Not that we are Native Americans. We are not Native Americans. Africa is everywhere Africans are. When you go to the western part of Africa, they have a bean pea soup that they eat in western part of Africa. When you go to Haiti, we call it what? Soujou. Because what happens is the culture goes with us, but the ingredients might change depending on where we at in the world. It's the same thing. And then we go to Louisiana, you got the gumbo. Yep. It's the same thing. We're talking about the same culture, just changing because the environment changed. But it's always in us. We're more African than we know it. All right. I actually tried to find this brother when I went to New Orleans. This is the president of Haiti. Now I'm gonna show you how connected they were. There are more Haitian leaders and political figures buried in Jamaica and Louisiana than they are buried in Haiti. Because when they would get exiled, where would they run? To Jamaica or to Louisiana. And so this brother right here, Pierre North Alex, is actually buried in New Orleans because he fled to New Orleans when he got, ousted and overthrown. All right, the fleur-de-lis is a French symbol, and this is the symbol that is the bread on slaves, right? That is a French symbol, and they still use it to this day. New Orleans sings, you go through New Orleans, you're going to see all this symbol. And this is what it was, because the French, again, had that southern region. When you go throughout the South, you will see that Caribbean and French influence. All right, they went from being Haitians to Louisiana Creoles, the southern states ruled by Beyonce's mom, specifically calls herself a Creole. She's from Texas. Remember what I said? 13 states. She said as a child, she stopped speaking Creole because they would make fun of her. And as we can see, the Destrehan plantation, which was at one point ruled by the Spanish, right? This brother Charles alone came and started a revolution, one of the biggest revolutions in 1811 in New Orleans, right? He was from Haiti. All right, so now let me tie all this in to make it make sense. So in America, only 3% of Africans made it here to the slave trade. The majority of Africans went to the Caribbean and South America. So only 3% came here to the United States. But as you can see, which you can't see, actually I wrote it right here. God dang, I'm so genius. In 1755, you can see in Maryland they had 1,000-something people, 1,000-something black people. This is the census that I got, 1,000-something, right? In Virginia, same thing, 1,000, right? Can y'all see that? Maybe the chair. Can y'all see it? No. Hey, Cal, I need a tip, man. I'm doing moving furniture and all, brother. Getting big out here.
Stay at the dark alleys at night, sir.
Especially right from that. So by 1810, it shoots up to 100,000 something. I know we like to groove, but we don't groove like that. For the numbers to jump so significantly in that amount of time. Where did those people come from? The Caribbean, from Haiti. And these are the census that they tell you how many black people were in Virginia at that time, how many black people were in Maryland, and then look how the number jumped. So when I tell you that your ancestors were traced back from Caribbean, you're Caribbean. Whether you want to believe it or not. Because the majority of the slave trade took place where? In these ports right here. And there's a good book you read on it, The Warmth of Other Suns, where they talk about the migration.
What's the book name again, sir?
The Warmth of Other Suns, where they talk about the migration of people from the southern, because now I'm going to tie it in now. Black people weren't being enslaved up here. When slavery ended, you had the great migration of blacks. You ask any black person where they family from, they're going to say, my family traced back to Mississippi. My family traced back to Louisiana. Any New Yorker, any Chicagoan, any Los Angeles person. Matter of fact, Los Angeles, when they started moving there, a lot of the folk came from Texas. So when I say your people come from the Caribbean and you're in the United States, your people come from the Caribbean. You're not Native American. The numbers didn't somehow get switched. Caribbean people start coming here during the Haitian Revolution. I'm going to give you a famous example on that. Does anybody know what this is? This is the accused assassin of Tupac Shakur. Orlando Brown, I believe his name is. That's his uncle over there, Keefe. They're big-time Crips in Los Angeles. They are the descendants of Nat Turner. This is a fact. They are descendants of Nat Turner. The people who accuse of killing Tupac are the descendants of Nat Turner. Their family moved up to California, settled there, and there you go. That's a family example right there. How our families moved up to different areas. So also in the northern portion, speaking about Philadelphia, you had Haitians that were coming here, 1800s, 1700s, Haitian Revolution, and they try to say that we brought yellow fever from Haiti, but you had one of the first yellow fever outbreaks took place where Haitians and white folk began to come to Philadelphia and populate that area. So now you want to say, oh, well, what if I know if they had blacks? Well, I'm showing you where they came from, and you can look this up. Okay? Jamaica Queens, right? It's not called Queens for no reason. We think Jamaica Queens is a new neighborhood. Jamaica Queens go way back in the day, 1800s. They called it Queens because it was owned by the Queen of England. And they called it Jamaica because they had a lot of Jamaican indentured servants. Look this up, don't believe me. You don't gotta believe me. And most African Americans have similar names with Jamaicans because they were ruled by what? Britain. And so you think you African American, but your family really Jamaican. When you really look at it, because most Jamaicans got last names like what? Brown, Campbell, Charles, Williams. Same thing as African Americans. Same thing as African Americans. But what's going to happen is the same thing's going to happen to us to this day. Right now I have two daughters, two beautiful daughters. My Creole ain't that good because my mom didn't teach me no good Creole like that. I had to learn through conversations. And what's going to happen 5 generations from now, my children might not remember that they was Haitian or that their ancestry were Haitian because it might not mean anything to them. So when you look at African Americans, they just forgot that they came from the Caribbean. That's it. That's it. Hopefully we can teach our children our Haitian, African, Jamaican cultures and things like that. But that's a prime example of what happened. Okay? Even in Miami, I was talking to my sister Melanie the other day. I said, yo, your family from the Bahamas, man. Like I get a Bahamas vibe from you, man. Your family from the Bahamas, man. And when you look at the first blacks in Miami, they were from the Bahamas. The first people to settle this area. This is why we have Goombay. We got Conk. You know what I'm saying? This is why we have it. This is why we have Juve. Because that culture comes from the Bahamas. I'm not taking no questions, but I got to speed through. I got to speed through. You know what I'm saying? So these communities were first founded by Bahamian people. All right. They come to Haiti to loot. That's a good word that I'm going to use. I'm going to use loot. They come to Haiti to loot. This gentleman, use a gentleman that is in the room. This gentleman right here,
$30.